We'll go ahead and kick it off. So, my name is Gunnar Fye. I am the Director of Operations here at Impact Wealth. And today I've got the pleasure of introducing Jim Teagarden, who is the CEO and Wealth Advisor here at Impact Wealth. And today we're going to be walking through a webinar on legacy planning. So this is actually the seventh webinar that we've done in a series that we kicked off back in December. So you can find all of the recordings of our previous webinars on our YouTube channel, Impact Wealth Advisors on YouTube. All of the previous recordings are on there, and they'll also be on our website very soon. So if you're interested, going back and checking out some of our previous webinars that we've done, feel free to check out our YouTube channel. So today, on the legacy planning piece, Jim has over 30 years experience in the industry, and today he's going to be walking through legacy planning. So some of the common decisions families must make when considering passing wealth down to the next generation. Uh, and so I will kick it over to him. And if you have any questions throughout today, feel free to put them in the chat down below. We will come back and answer those questions at the end.
Good. Thanks, Gunnar. Appreciate it. Happy Friday to everyone. Tax season is behind us, and everybody's getting ready for graduation and summer trips and all that. So we spend a lot of time talking about the technical details, taxes, legal, gifting, strategies, charity, lots of technical stuff. And I think we don't spend enough time on more of the human side of legacy planning or the behavioral side of legacy planning. So hopefully this will bring up some things today and will give you some tools that might help you on your journey. Um, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've seen, a lot of families spend a lifetime building wealth, businesses, etc., but very little time preparing it for the next generations. Uh, 67% of people in the US die without a will. That's almost incomprehensible to most people, but we see it every single day. We see people worth a lot of money with a lot of complex a lot of complex situations without the basics even. So, and I think part of that is we're trained from uh, youth to not talk about money in the United States. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We've got the human side of things, fears, anxieties, uh, greed, laziness, lots of reasons why. And I think for one of my longtime uh, heroes, and I actually knew him personally, was Coach McCartney from CU. And in our business, we act as a coach or a quarterback a lot of times. And one of the things he said was, coaching is just taking people where they want to go, where they can't get to on their own. And that's a lot of what we try to help people and families get to where they want to be. They can't get there on their own, and that was his definition of coaching. So money impacts every impact of our lives, for better or for worse. And in our opinion, the more honest and transparent we are about it, the better our relationships are, and the more rewarding our lives are. So and this applies, we have a diverse client base of retirees, typically, 3 to 10 million in net worth, pre-retirees, retirees. We have business owner clients that are, worth anywhere from 10 to on up $1 million, very complex situations. And we have kind of the older generation, high net worth planning side of things. So we kind of run the gamut of people, and we see a lot. This last year, I lost my mother. She was not a high net worth person. She didn't have anything done. In fact, she had very little assets, and I got to experience with my sister the pain in the rear things can be, even on very small estates. Got to experience probate in two different states. And it took a lot of time and energy, emotional energy, and a lot of time from my sister and I to get things figured out. And unfortunately, my mom just didn't have the capacity or didn't have her stuff in the way it should be. So, um, one of my daughter's boyfriends lost his dad last year, had some assets. He's going through it right now, and he is totally unprepared. And so we've seen it head on personally here recently. Obviously, I've seen it over time with a lot of clients as well that we're hopefully a lot more prepared. But so our normal disclosures, we're part of Singe Advisory Group. We're partners in that firm with along with Ridgeback Group. And we are not tax accountants. We are not attorneys. We do not make guarantees, et cetera, et cetera. So most legacy plans don't fail because of strategy. They fail, in our opinion, because of people. Confusion between heirs, resentment between siblings, spouses who were never aligned, children who were never prepared. We can put the structure down on paper, but the human side sometimes is what derails it. So I think a lot of this has to do with the senior generation. Let's talk the older generation now, who is typically our client. And I think one of the things that we see a lot when we first start working with people is they really don't know how much is enough for they and their spouse. They haven't really got a good, firm understanding of what they need. And I think most of them overestimate what they need because of fears or uncertainty, whatever. And that delays planning and sometimes delays it enough that it never gets done. We say that clarity creates confidence and confidence creates action. We want to help people provide clarity so that then they can take action. And maybe the most important thing we do is help people take action. So there was a Wall Street Journal article this week, actually, which is really good. And it was about the 5 documents that everyone needs for estate planning. So I'm just going to touch on that. This is some of the basics. Go back to that stat I said in the first slide, which is 67% of Americans don't have a will when they die. So a will. They should have a durable or financial powers of attorney so that someone can take care of their finances if they're incapacitated. A medical power of attorney, advance directive, living will is sometimes that's referred to, and also HIPAA authorization, naming individuals that doctors can discuss medical condition with. And one more thing too, if you have minor kids, there's this thing called a standby guardianship for parents if they're incapacitated. A lot of times they have wills and trusts that state what who the kids' guardians will be if they pass, but it doesn't reflect who should be a guardian in the event they're incapacitated but still alive. It was a great article. It was just this week. I'll talk about that a little bit more here. So one of the things that we struggle with is helping husband and wife get on the same page, communicating with one another. Um, Oftentimes, there is not a lot of alignment, and we know that the strongest plans happen when both voices are heard, built into the same documents, and communicating correctly. It is fairly typical that one spouse tends to focus on the structure, the numbers, the modeling, the investments, the controls, tax efficiency, etc. And the other spouse tends to focus more on the people. What is the impact of our money? And what are the family dynamics? What's fair in our relationships? How do the heirs feel, or how will they feel? And we're really trying to help get both voices heard in the planning process. So obviously, dad and mom have their estate; it's their money. They often have different feelings about their kids and grandkids. They may even have different thoughts around wealth. We see that a lot. Ultimately, it's their money. They can do what they want with it. And my caution, I guess, is to not overlook the small things. And I will tell you, kids and grandkids keep track of things. You may think it's not a big deal, but they are keeping track. So we talk about the equal versus fair. And I think one of the hardest, maybe, and most important decisions in legacy planning is, there's not an exact right answer for every situation. But in our opinion, there should be a clear rationale. So when we say equal, that means, hey, every heir gets the same amount, regardless of the circumstances. We're fair, and it can work if heirs are in similar situations, and mom and dad have always treated them that way, and you want to keep it simple. Uh, and then there's the fair version, and this is more based on circumstances. And allocations here really reflect differences in people's their lives, their prior support, how well off they are. And a lot of times there's gray area. If you've got a business where one child runs a business and the others don't, one's financially responsible, the other isn't. You've helped one in the past, you didn't help the other. Those are the things that people, uh, kids and grandkids pay attention to. So, what do you do about that? One of the things we've just started incorporating is this legacy letter. We're encouraging clients through when we establish their unique roadmap, uh, and we get into the estate planning, uh, we are encouraging them to put together what's called a legacy letter. It's not legally binding, but it might be the most powerful tool a family can leave behind. And we say it's a love letter, really. And especially if there's unequal things or uh, different things that maybe the kids wouldn't understand, it gives you a platform for providing a letter right alongside your wills and trusts that says, hey, this is why I did what I did. Here's how I got to this position, the risks I took, the years I saved, what matters most to me or both spouses. And I would, in fact, encourage either one letter from both, or maybe two separate letters from mom and dad. But what matters most, the family, faith, work ethic, generosity, whatever that is. How do you hope this money that they're getting is used for education, for business, for giving back? How would you like them to use whatever assets they got? And then your expectations, if any, around stewardship or giving or things like that. What a blessing that would be if dad and mom pass and you open the will and here's a love letter that says, hey guys, here's why I did what I did. I think that's a very powerful thing. So that's called a legacy letter. Um, and now we're going to talk about unprepared errors. I see this a lot. I'm seeing it more and more. And, uh, we see a lot of kids with no real grasp of investing, saving, risks, um, grandkids being disconnected from where the wealth came from, no real shared language around stewardship. And so we're trying to teach the basic investment principles early. The earlier the better. Share our family investment philosophy. In fact, maybe we even have a family retirement and investment philosophy written out as part of their unique roadmap or their family plan, and then involve kids gradually and create some exposure. It's wealth without preparation is temporary. If you want it to last, invest in your people, not just your portfolio. So, what I have found recently, actually, the last couple of years, as my kids have grown, they're all in their 20s now. Their boyfriends and girlfriends and their friends. There is a huge gap in understanding the very basics of saving and investing. And in the last 2 months, I've spent probably 15 hours or so with half a dozen kids, my own and some others, helping them understand the basics of what does this look like if you invest today long term? How should you think about money? How should you be disciplined? I'm doing that, and in fact, I'm thinking about creating a little crash course for all of our clients, kids and grandkids. So if there's any interest in that, let me know because it's kind of a personal passion of mine anyway. And having been doing this for a lot of kids in the last couple of months that are in their 20s, it's shocking how little they know. And my thing is getting them some foundational things to think about and to start the process. So if you come from a family with a lot of money and you've been doing this, that's not applies to you. But I find that generally we're pretty financially illiterate. And I think that goes also to why people don't talk about money. Not only is it uncomfortable. I think a lot of folks maybe just don't have much literacy around it, so they don't even know how to talk about it. So at the end of the day, a good legacy plan does a couple things. Transfers wealth efficiently, and I would say, we can get very sophisticated in our structures, tax minimization, all of that stuff we do, assets that need to move, when and how much, all of that. Um, I also want it to um, be clear and basically maintain clarity and control. Have a real intent about this, documented rationale, and a plan that the family can read without a translator. Oftentimes, that's what that legacy letter is for. Wills, trust, all these technical documents. Here's a letter, and dad said this, or mom said this. That is very powerful. Um, and then the third is preparing the next generation to handle it. This is where, takes a lot of time and energy. That's why a lot of folks don't want to do it. This is a piece that most plans skip, in our opinion, and one that decides whether the wealth lasts or not. So I will just touch on a few technical things here. We are in a golden period for transference of wealth during life. With the new tax law that passed last year, married couples can pass up to 15 million per person tax free, no gift tax. That's a lifetime exemption, and that is currently indexed for inflation going forward. Okay. So if you're a married couple and you have less than $30 million, I would encourage you to start looking at potentially moving some wealth out. And I am under the opinion, this is an opinion, that we, based just on historical where the gift and estate tax laws are, that we won't always be in this situation. So I'm encouraging people, if you're thinking about the end game here and want to get serious, we're really encouraging people to start slowly, but let's start taking advantage of these exemptions we have now and start moving things out in a good way. And a lot of you have heard probably of a family limited partnership or LLP or LLC, where dad and mom will put assets into that LLC or LLP and gift minority interests in that, or limited partnership interests and minority interests to that effect, to the kids, either outright or in trust. And mom and dad will keep the general partnership interests during their lifetime. So they can basically move wealth without giving up the steering wheel. Okay. You can do that, and probably should. First and foremost, you got to have a foundational plan that says, hey, I don't need this money. I can do this. And my encouragement is this, then getting the kids involved in running that partnership and understanding finances and understanding what you're investing in, whether it's real estate, whether it's private business interests, whether it's stocks, bonds, etc., using that as a tool for the kids and grandkids to actually learn. So, um, the other thing I'll say, we spend an awful lot of time setting up trusts in jurisdictions that have directed trust statutes where there's a heck of a lot of flexibility to move assets, get them out of your taxable estate, get them asset protected, and do it in a way that has the most flexibility for long-term changes in your situation. So directed trusts, partnerships, and of course, if you're in the tax game, we spend a lot of our time in helping people figure out how to be most tax efficient, both on the income tax side and the estate and gift tax side. Two separate regimes, by the way. So the goal is simple: to make sure your wealth does three things. One, supports your lifestyle for as long as you live. Take care of you if you have medical emergencies, home health care emergencies, etc. That's easy to figure out. Oftentimes it needs a coach, and that's what we do. Okay. Number two, how do we transfer things efficiently and at the least amount of friction, I would say, both relationally and financially? and three, improve the lives of the people you care about. So if you need some help, we're offering a legacy roadmap consultation to help you really define those three buckets, stress your current plan, and identify opportunities in the current windows. So that is a lot. I hope you hear our passion for families and wanting to provide real value outside the numbers, if you will, but more kind of relationally and culturally, et cetera. So I hope that's an encouragement to you to take some action here. And if you need our help, let us know. You can call us here at our work line that's listed here. Uh, Email gunner@impactwealth.com. We have been working on our new website. I've said this a couple weeks ago on our last webinar. Should have a new website going live next week. And all of these webinars will be posted on there along with lots of other things. So looking forward to getting that done. And we will continue these webinars. I intend to start bringing in some outside people on these as we continue on. We've gotten pretty good feedback, and I think let us know if you need any help or need us to send you shoot you a link or whatever it might be. So, with that, I'm going to close out here and see if we have any questions from the chat. I'm not looking at it, Gunner, but if you
Yeah.
see any
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, it looks like we got a couple questions that came through here. Uh, the first one is regarding these conversations with the heirs. How would you suggest going about and starting those conversations without creating tension or conflict?
Yeah, I think so I'm 55 years old, so and I run around with a lot of folks, 45 to 65 years old, and a lot of them have parents, and we have a lot of clients in that same age group, and I think they find it pretty tough. A lot of them don't want to be rude or presumptuous with their parents, and if the parents have never said anything about what's going to happen, oftentimes our clients will say, "Hey, we know kind of what they have, and they've never talked to us about anything." I said, "Well, have you asked them?" And most of the kids don't want to ask, and I think it's probably because they're fearful. So we try to help them just with some, uh, I think, some thoughts around, "Hey, Dad, Mom, we're actually doing our estate planning, and we're focused on your grandkids and what will happen down the road, but." We don't have any idea what you guys are doing. Do you need any help? And I think this gets into having an outside voice too. I think whether that's your financial advisor, quarterback, whether that's a CPA or an attorney, having someone else that is involved that might be able to help start the conversation. So we have a lot of clients that are in the older generation. We're encouraging them to be proactive because I think it is their role to do this. But we also see a lot of younger folks who just don't have any idea where to start. And unfortunately, I don't know the best answer there. I can just tell you that a lot of times, uh, I think parents would have some more conversations around this if there was if they were asked and if it was done appropriately. So I don't have all the answers there. I think it's a case by case basis, but
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but I'm encouraging all parties to be transparent. And by the way, we didn't really talk about this. We don't always know the family dynamics. We don't know if there's blended marriages, second marriages. That's where we see a lot of not transparency and where we see some of the biggest problems. So I would encourage those younger folks to maybe reach out and say, Mom and Dad, I'm doing this myself. I've got some good counsel. Would you like to talk to them? I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. Okay. But the older generation, it is their responsibility. It's their money. And they don't have to do it. We're just trying to give them a framework for how they might do it and might start piecemealing this and really start having an impact. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
got for that. It's not a great
Yeah.
answer, but the higher net worth folks, And businesses, a lot of times will bring in outside consultants to work with the family. And in fact, I was with a couple of them out in Beverly Hills a couple of weeks ago. That's all they do. They work with that tends to be pretty high net worth families that have lots of assets. But I do think that's a big gap in our world, and we as financial advisors can be that glue that helps spur those conversations. So
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah, it looks like one more question here. If someone hasn't started any sort of planning in this space up until this point, where do they start and how much does it cost?
here's another big gap in the advisory community. It's hard to find good legal counsel, in my opinion, and it's hard to find good tax counsel. We have a lot of attorneys that we work with. And in general, I would say if you want basic um, foundational documents, wills, revocable trusts, powers of attorney, the things we talked about before, that's going to run you $5,000 to $8,000 for just about any attorney. And I'm not suggesting that those attorneys are always doing everything the way they should, quite frankly. But it's going to cost some money, and I think that's another reason people don't want to do it. I think we try to really help that process by going to the attorneys with a game plan, attorneys we know and we've worked with, and saying, "Here's the situation. Here's what we need." And here's what these clients need to get done. And by doing that, we can cut out some of the cost and the time. Um, the other thing you can do is, in fact, that article, let me see where that is. That article in the Wall Street Journal from this was April 28th, so a few days ago. Um, So LegalZoom that's what I was looking for. LegalZoom and Trust and Will. You can go on online, Trust and Will, for example, get a will, HIPAA authorization, living will, powers of attorney for $200 for an individual and 300 for a couple. You can also you can consult with an estate attorney in that network for $300. So those are pretty simple. Both of those firms will tell you that if you're worth more than 4 or 5 million, you should hire an attorney. That's kind of my normal course of action too. We're actually working on this. We haven't rolled this offering out yet, but wealth.com is a firm that works with financial advisory firms where we can help our clients do a lot of this basic planning real efficiently. So we'll look forward to rolling that out later this year. But I would encourage you, um, if you know you need it, either get on and get something in place or hire an attorney. Call us if you need someone. We've got lots of local folks we can refer you to. So that's what I would focus on. So we're about out of time here. Thank you all for being here. I hope it was helpful. If you have any comments or reactions from this, if it's helpful, let us know. And we will look forward to we're doing these webinars every 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll keep on it. So hope it was helpful. Hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and God bless. Thanks.